Nobody's going to be super surprised when I say this week we have another dogs list to look at and a purple steel list when it comes to our weekly review. This week we're looking at one of the Canadian CCQs, which was Randolph Rosemont in Quebec. So our first and second place list we have built, and Josh and I are going to play test them against each other. We roll off randomly to see who gets to pick which deck, and we have some gameplay for you after this. So let's look at the list and see what's in them first. So our first place list is Purple Steel, and it is Chris Fekats. And if I pronounce that wrong, I apologize. This is the first place winner, and it is Purple Steel, which does not shock me in the slightest because Purple Steel, with its tempo removal, is really good into aggro. Rock, paper, scissors, it is tempo or mid-range, I guess, beats aggro, and that is what our second list is. So if we're looking at this list here, it is a great list as far as a purple steel list goes. We have a little bit of our removal package in the form of the song, which is in every steel deck I would imagine out there, Strength of a Raging Fire, but we also have Fire the Cannons, which I assume is exactly for this matchup here, or another aggro version of this. There's like Amber Steel aggro one as well. Fire the Cannons is great because it does 2 damage to a character and it only costs 1, which means you can do that on turn 1, do that on turn 2 to get rid of those pesky little characters. Now the problem with Fire the Cannons right now, there's a lot of characters that doesn't kill that come out early enough, so like Lady would be a big one where their defense is just big enough to make it kind of problematic for it. So it's not a 4-of, but it is a nice option as a 2-of to be able to get rid of some of those characters. Other ones that we have in this list are, we have Captain Hooks for challenging, we have Calhoun's for challenging, we have Cheshire Cat for moving the damage around for when we challenge, we have Tigger for bouncing our opponent's characters, Yzma and Doc for card draw, along with Demona for card draw as well. Now the problem with Demona in this match is she does draw dogs a lot of cards, and you want to avoid that, so in this match she's pretty much ink. Cards that I really like in this match are Pluto. I was looking at them in the list, they're side by side. Pluto, Steel Champion, because he makes it so you gain extra lore when your steel characters banish a character in a challenge. So this means in this case, Calhoun gains you 4 lore, which is awesome. Other things that are great that Steel does is when you play another Steel character, he gets rid of an item, which in this case would be the Chromicons, which is exactly like the match that this is made for. It is a, what is he? He's a 1-of, so if you're expecting a lot of dogs, maybe increase that, but he's definitely like a good one for this match. On the note of getting rid of items, we also have Benja. So Benja is a 2-of in this list. We've got 3 ways to get rid of those pesky items. That should hopefully be all that you need. We have some really big questers in the form of the Genie, the magical researcher, that gets extra lore for every card he's boosted. Christopher Robin is great as well because he quests for 2 and comes out nice and early. And then we have Giant Cobras, like the finishing piece. So if you are late game and you want to be, if you need to gain that extra 2 lore, Giant Cobra, discard a card. So here's our purple steel list. Let's go into our dogs list. So our dogs list is by Osman here. So second place is this list. It is a very solid looking dogs list at this point in time. I think dogs is figured out kind of other than a couple cards, and the big cards that are different in this one is the Tramp Dapper Rascal. So that is the shift tramp here. So he costs, he's a 2-of in this list, and he is a nice kind of addition because he does kind of get you those extra big bodies that draw you cards, which is great. Other cards that are really important in this list, especially against this matchup here, are our Mowgli's and our Ursulas to be able to try to take those Strengths of Raging Fires to protect our characters. But mostly we want to try to get under this list and play as many characters as possible so that on opportune turns, we can either shift Lady, and that should give us enough singers for Under the Sea, which just destroys decks like this because the character. Now, even though Purple Steel does have a lot of 3 strength characters, it does get rid of a lot of the early game characters, and it's really hard to come back from that. And other ones that we have here are playing, again, a wide board to be able to play the Big Tramp, because the Big Tramp is difficult to get rid of because it is like a 2/6. Now, in any matchup for dogs, but especially in a matchup where a lot of your stuff is going to be removed pretty quickly and pretty effectively by a mixture of songs and challengers, you really want that Emerald Chromacon. Makes a huge difference. I wouldn't necessarily say like destroy your hand mulliganing to look for it, but it is a really important one to be able to really mess up the math on the tempo list side. So let's take a look at some gameplay and see how it goes. Alright, so we are starting off our match here with game one. So when Josh and I play these weekly recaps, we roll to see who gets which deck. So I rolled much better than Josh there, so I get to choose. I'm choosing Purple Steel. After that, I get a 10 to go first. Josh gets an 8, so I not only get to choose the deck of my choice, but I also get to go first. So we're just going to shuffle up and do some quick mulligans here. I don't normally show the mulligans. I don't know if we go through it too quick to really figure out what we're mulliganing, but the basics here are that you want to be able to have a curve. You want to be able to make sure that you have enough cards in your hand that you've kind of planned out turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, ideally, with a little bit of ink to be able to make sure that you can actually play things. So starting off here, I play an Olaf. It's not the ideal play. I kept my whole hand because I had a curve, even though it wasn't necessarily the ideal curve, but knowing that I was playing against dogs, I should have mulliganed for something a little bit more aggressive. Josh plays a lady, which I think personally is a really good turn 1 play because it doesn't take that many turns to be able to get her up to that 3 strength, be questing for 3. I'm going to play Christopher Robin. I really like this Christopher Robin because he does quest for so much, which is awesome. And then Josh plays out 2 characters. So since Lady is not big enough to really be able to quest for the most that she can, Josh, I'm sure, is going to hold her back, with also the idea of dogs wants to wait to have 1 or 2 big turns. You don't just want to be turning your character sideways and then losing them into your opponent, especially when I have played a Cheshire out. So Cheshire should stop Josh from questing, because ideally what I want to be able to do is go collect a little bit of damage on either my characters or his characters, and then to be able to move that damage around to start clearing out his field. So I assume Cheshire Cat will definitely keep Josh's characters upright until he can either get rid of it or until he has gone so wide that it doesn't matter, he can kind of go past that. So you can see he's played the small tramp to make Lady bigger, and he's played the big tramp, which means he gets to draw and discard. Ideally, you want Lilos in the discard pile so that you can play them for from the discard pile. But being able to just select whatever cards are best for you there also is a good thing there. So I play out a Benja. Benja's here for the item, the Emerald Chromacon, which isn't out here yet, but I do want to be able to not miss a character drop. I'm going to take out his ramp. There's a lot of characters I'd like to take out, but we're going to take out the ramp. And then Josh is going to shift Lady. So the problem is, so last turn I wanted to take out a lady, but there's 2 ladies, and Josh is going to wave my cards away there. The problem is that when he shifts Lady, he can very easily sing Under the Sea. Now, with the big tramp out, it means no matter what, he can sing Under the Sea. All of my characters were susceptible to Under the Sea there, especially when he played the Della's Moon Lullaby to shrink the Cheshire Cat. So I'm going to fire the cannons. His smaller lady, play a dog, hopefully get some things that I can play an Olaf. My ideal play after this is going to be to throw an Olaf into something and bounce the dock back to my hand so I can draw more cards. But Josh just keeps unloading his hand, which is, problematic for me here. He's going to quest up to 7. I'm going to play an Angel and discard the more or less useless Royal Guard in my hand to do 2 damage, and then I challenge him with the dock first. Not enough damage to take out the dock. Challenge him with the Olaf. The Olaf dies, and I get to bounce the dock back to my hand, which means next turn I'm going to be able to draw more cards. But Josh shifts the tramp, so during an opponent's turn, whenever one of his characters is banished, he gets to draw cards. This is a great way to keep resetting his hand. I don't know why those tramps weren't in a lot more of the decks. I really like them, and they're not kind of considered a staple in the decks, but I really like them, especially for card draw. Kind of the same type of idea as Chromacon, you get to bounce things. With him, you get to draw things. So we snowballed with Angel, and now I am going to try to figure out exactly who I want to deal damage to with the strength. There's no real good targets with this, just because everything is so awkward as far as damage count numbers go that I can't actually take out anything. Josh plays a big lady. He's going to get 2 cards back from the discard pile, and I think he's going to ink something and just play a 1-drop there. He's already at 11. 12, 13, 14. So he's going to go up to 17. There's really no catching him right now. So I'm going to play a genie, draw a card, hope to get something, but I don't really get anything that I can play anyways. We'll get rid of the tramp for, you know, a good cathartic feeling there. And then I could snowball whatever's in my hand. I didn't happen to see what's in my hand here, or I could challenge. But at this point in time, there's not a lot that I can do because I only have 3 characters. That's a strength in my hand. I only have 3 characters, and it's not enough to really take anything out, or not enough to take enough out. So Josh gets the game there because the tramp quests for 2, and Lady is going to quest for 4 because she was shifted. So for 2 because she was shifted. So we're going to go on to game 2 here. So I get to start again. You can see it didn't necessarily help me last time, but I'm going to lead with an Olaf. For Josh's turn here, he gets to lead with the same thing, so a Lady. So it looks like the exact same game so far. I am going to play a Calhoun. So Calhoun is a much better 2-drop for me because she has the resist, which kind of protects her, keeps her pretty damage free in a dogs match, and starts to actually gain me lore for challenging and trying to clear Josh's field. Josh plays another Lady and a Grandmother Willow. So again, the problem with seeing 2 ladies out is there's 2 shift targets for the big lady, which means that Under the Sea is a potential at any point in time in my mind. So I have to bear in mind that I want to keep my characters bigger because I want them to survive in Under the Sea. Josh is going to play a tramp, which means he's drawing and discarding. He discards an Under the Sea. I like to see that, but I know that he's got one in his hand. Even though I just saw it on camera, I do know that he has one in his hand because there's no reason that you would discard Under the Sea without having a backup. I'm going to play a Yzma, so again, almost all of my characters are big enough to survive that Under the Sea. And I'm going to do 4 damage to take out either one of his ladies or his Grandmother Willow. I ultimately am going to choose the Grandmother Willow because there's 2 shift targets for the ladies, which means either way it's potentially going to be a problem. And with the big tramp out, it means that he just needs one more character to be able to sing Under the Sea. So Josh shifts the lady, gets 2 characters back. And now he's going to challenge into my Cheshire Cat there. I perhaps maybe shouldn't have sung with the Cheshire. He should have just could have sat there to deal damage around there. But I did want to start to kind of do something about Josh's field. It's a delicate balance. Like, when do you swing in to dogs characters? When do you sacrifice your characters that you might potentially need later? Because you need to stall them from not getting too far ahead. With just 2 characters out that on my side here, I am happy to have the Calhoun, and I am very happy to have the Yzma. Yzma's card draw at the very least. But they both hit for 3, so they both can do a good amount of damage here. This play I go back and forth on a lot, so ignore the Pocahontas that's out there right now because Josh and I are kind of talking this through and trying to figure out exactly what the ideal situation or the ideal play is here. So I originally played the Pocahontas thinking it's another body out, and I want to kind of empty my hand if I use Yzma to draw cards. I want as few cards in my hand as possible so that I can draw the most amount of cards. However, Josh does have some big characters that I do need to take care of, and I do need to kind of get rid of those characters that are threatening to, you know, do a lot of questing here. So we're going to do a strength to get rid of his 4/4 lady. And then I'm going to, I think I'm going to challenge, or sorry, I'm going to use her ability to draw cards. And then I'm going to play the Pocahontas. Nothing else better came from the card draw, so I may as well play her. And use the Calhoun to challenge into the Tramp. So here's the deal here. The Tramp could take out the Calhoun, but the Calhoun takes out the Tramp back. The Tramp does not have enough damage that it does to take out the Yzma. So unless Josh wants to sacrifice some more, I think it's... which he doesn't want to do there. So it's not a good trade for Josh. So at this point in time, it's better for the Dogs player to just sit there with the characters and again hope to survive a couple of turns to be able to kind of build out a big board and play out and to be able to have that 1 or 2 big questing turns. I play an Elsa. I'm going to exert his big Tramp because I really do want to get rid of it. Before I challenge in though, I'm going to use Yzma's ability, draw some cards, see what my options are, and then I'm going to challenge the Tramp with the Elsa and quest with the rest of my characters. So it's pushing me up to 8, which is great. Cool thing about the Pocahontas is that you can choose any characters that are exerted, yours or your opponent's, to gain extra lore from. Josh plays the dreaded Chromacon, which means at this point in time I got to be cautious. So I'm doing my math here. I'm counting how much I can quest for, how much Josh can quest for. And I'm wondering if Josh can catch up to me. So my plan here is I don't think I need to get control of the board at this point in time, because challenging into his characters means he gets to bounce my characters, and I'm going to lose the resources from them. So instead, what I do is I count, and I count how much lore I can gain. So I go from 8 up to, I gain 3 from the Pocahontas, 2 from the Pocahontas, 1 from the Pocahontas, 2 from the Lilo, because I can choose any character there. And I'm going to quest with the rest of my board, going up to 15. I choose not to use Yzma's ability, because I want to make Josh have to challenge into my characters, because my characters don't get bounced with the Chromacon on his turn. So I'm instead choosing to make Josh have to come to me and deal with my characters. Now the Genie and the Elsa, in my mind, are safe because they're both evasive. And so Josh is going to just play out a whole bunch of characters, make Lilo super big, and then he's going to sing Under the Sea. So it gets rid of my evasive characters, but it still leaves enough lore out that he should be worried. So the Pocahontas is always 1 plus at least 1 other one because of her ability. In this case, probably 2, because either Yzma's exerted or one of Josh's characters will be at 2. Josh decides to take out the Yzma. Personally, I would have taken out the Pocahontas, and we looked at this afterwards, and here's why. I can get up to 15. I can get up to 20 this turn. I can quest the Pocahontas and target a Lilo, going up to 18, and then the Calhoun can swing into the Grandmother Willow or the Lady and gain 2 off of that. So that is up to 20 for me. So that is I win game 2. We're at 1-1 going into game 3. So for game 3, I gave Josh the option. He chose he did not want to let me be on the play. He wanted to take the play. Don't understand why he'd want to do that. So we are going on to that there. So Josh is going to lead with a Bobby. He draws and discards, and I get an Olaf out there. So I've got an Olaf out each game. I really should be mulliganing for a hook. Josh goes nice and wide so far with a Rhino, shrinking that Olaf down so he can't do any damage anyways, and playing out a Willow. I get a Calhoun, which is great. I do want to be able to challenge in and gain lore. I definitely make mistakes here. So Josh is going to play Nani. He gets a Lilo. Really, with the dog's deck, there's not much that you really shouldn't miss with Nani. There should always be a 2-cost character or less in your hand to be able to grab. Looking at how wide that board is, I don't like it, but I'm going to have to start to kind of deal with it. So Josh leaves everything upright, which means unless I have a song or an action, I can't really do much. So I play out a Giant Cobra. Should have discarded the Genie in my hand. Genie doesn't do a whole lot here, although in the last match I did like the idea of the evasive. And then Josh plays a Chromacon and is going to swing with all of his characters. So he quests up to 6, which is a problem for me because that Chromacon means that all of my threats are going to get bounced back to my hand. Now, in theory, I can use this to make sure that my characters don't have enough damage to be problems or to be kind of like threatened, or use the ability to kind of make him bounce characters with enters play triggers. However, it's rough looking at having to get rid of this many characters. So I challenge him with a Calhoun. Josh bounces a Cobra. So I do all of my challenging questing before I'm going to play my characters. And the reason for that being, I want to be able to replay my characters at the end of my turn. Otherwise, you can just bounce those characters. So I replay a Cobra. But so I'm going to do a Fire the Cannons. And I think I replay a Cobra, but I wish I replayed the Calhoun. The Calhoun would have been better because even with the Chromacon out, I could just keep going back to my hand and I could keep doing, I could just keep replaying it. I also have a Pluto in my hand, and keeping the Calhoun would have made so much more sense than discarding it, which is what I do here. So that's, I guess, like play mistake or like lesson learned number 1. Never get rid of that Calhoun, especially not against dogs. So going back here, so I've got the Giant Cobra out, and I've got a second one in my hand. I don't think it's the most playable thing. I'm going to play a Genie, hoping that the evasive gets me a little bit of protection and draws me an extra card. But the double Chromacon definitely is a very annoying thing to have to deal with on the field. I really I lucked out by getting a Benja there, but I definitely needed to have deployed the Pluto earlier to be able to actually start to destroy those Chromacons. So playing out the Benja, getting rid of one of the Chromacons, and Josh will still be bouncing my stuff now. Luckily, all of them have good enters play triggers that I would like to be able to use again. But it still is kind of an issue of something's going to get bounced, and I don't necessarily want to bounce. I don't want him to bounce something that I really want him to bounce the Benja, but he's definitely not going to bounce the Benja there. So Josh got a Nani and two of the small characters out there. And I don't really have enough to play anything in my hand. So one of the problems was with the strength was that the other options were kind of less inkable, or less better options for inking there. So Josh plays out characters, questing up to 10, and again with that Chromacon out and only one character in play, there's really not a huge amount that I can kind of do about his board state. So I inked the Demona because I do not want to give him more cards. And I played the Pluto that I'm kicking myself for not playing several turns earlier, because I definitely could have gotten rid of the Chromacons then. And I also definitely could have started to do something about this board state. So I'm going to challenge into his Lilo first, sorry, I'm going to take that back because he's got a -1 to his strength because of the Rhino. And I'm going to play a Pluto. At this point in time, Josh has got too many characters for me to really do much about, though. He's going to be able to take out my Benja with his Nani and quest up to 15 with the rest of his characters out there. And unless I get like a Be Prepared, which really shouldn't be in my deck, I can't really do anything about his characters there. So I play out a Captain Hook, which lets me get rid of that last Chromacon. It's at the very least a good feeling for me, and then Josh is going to quest to, we're just going to round and say 20, but it was definitely more than 20. So Josh wins in 3. So that was our game. Tempo should have had it again. In rock, paper, scissors, Tempo really should be able to take out aggro. And rewatching this and kind of, it was often like a turn or two after I did something, I realized, no, should have done that in the other order. I saw a couple of mistakes that definitely kind of probably cost me the game, but Josh has phenomenal luck, and it is really difficult to deal with like 2 of the big ladies or 2 or 3 of the big tramps. That's a lot of removal and a lot of characters to toss at those. So this is kind of how our match went. You can see how both are very strong lists, and they need to kind of be piloted by somebody who really knows what they're doing. And in this case, doesn't make the little mistakes that I did. Tempo is really good at being able to remove a lot of the problem stuff that aggro has. Aggro can go really wide, and in the case of aggro, you need to be able to know when you're going to swing for it. You don't want to be questing with your characters each turn. You want to quest either when it's safe, or when you're hitting that kind of breaking point of you have enough characters that your opponent's going to spend all of their resources trying to trade into your characters and not get rid of them all. So it is kind of a very delicate balance, and it often feels like each turn I'm just kind of, when I play aggro at least, I'm itching to quest, and I sit there and I second guess myself and I think maybe I should quest now, maybe I should quest next turn, oh I should have quested last turn, oh I should have waited, and it's a very tough position to be in. So that's what makes aggro, in my opinion, tough. I think aggro is a hard deck to play. And I think our aggro is a hard deck to play because you need to know when to swing, you need to know when to hold back, and you really need to know what to mulligan, because chances are you're not getting a huge amount of card draw. So those cards that you mulligan, those cards that you throw away and keep, are really have to kind of like make it for you. As far as purple steel goes, like I said, I saw a couple of play mistakes that I'm kicking myself for, but that is kind of how you learn. You learn by looking at it afterwards and saying, darn, I could have beat Josh, but if I just kind of changed 1 or 2 things. But I guess we'll never know. Actually, these decks are popular enough that I would assume we'll be playing them again in the next couple weeks. We're going off to Calgary. I am playing Steelsong, and I'm hoping to see a lot of dogs because I'm good into dogs. And it's like the same package. I don't know why I do better with Steelsong than Amber Steel. But that is what I'm kind of looking at here. My assumption is that we're going to see a huge mass of dogs at that CCQ. My assumption is that we're going to see a huge mass of dogs at like every event there. But that's kind of my assumption. I guess I'll check back in a week and we'll see how that went and how many dogs came to the show.